Greetings. Really quick and perhaps silly video here, right? I have a previous video from a few years ago titled Just for Fun, Seeing Yiddish in Ancient Aramaic, in which, as per the title, I noted that my mind briefly thought it saw a Slavic word in an Aramaic text. And this video will have a similar lack of seriousness, this too is just for fun, as I want to share a Slavic term which caused my mind to think of so-called Paleo-Hebrew or the Phoenician script. So for those who don't know, I'm from Lower Manhattan, and when I'm walking past this famous Ukrainian restaurant called Veselka, I often notice the bilingual text that they have painted on their outdoor booths. And today I was looking at the Ukrainian text for borscht, or borщ in Ukrainian. And because I often tinker with so-called Paleo-Hebrew texts, which is to say Hebrew texts written in the Phoenician script, my mind wandered to that script, to the Paleo-Hebrew script or Phoenician script, while looking at this sign. You see, much of the Cyrillic script, which is what Ukrainian and Russian are written in, much of the Cyrillic script comes from the Greek script, which itself is still quite close to the Phoenician script from which it descends. And for certain phonemes that do not exist in Greek and therefore didn't have characters representing them, the Cyrillic script adopted forms from Hebrew. So with that in mind, in an attempt to illustrate where my mind went, let me reverse the Ukrainian text, making it go in the opposite direction from right to left. We're basically going to mirror it horizontally. And each one of those letters remind me of a so-called Paleo-Hebrew or Phoenician character. And truth be told, each one of those letters actually descend from a Phoenician letter. So let me put the corresponding Phoenician characters underneath. You see, the Cyrillic be, the first character, does descend through Greek from the Phoenician bet. The Cyrillic o does descend through Greek from the Phoenician ayin. The Cyrillic which corresponds to our r, does descend, again, through Greek from the Phoenician resh. And the shta, or I think it's just called sha in Ukrainian, is an adaptation of a character which the Cyrillic script borrowed from Hebrew, from the Hebrew shin, so it too ultimately goes back to the Phoenician shin, although the Cyrillic character was adopted from the Ashuri script. But whatever the case, as the bottom text stands, the way it is now, it looks like it says be'eres, which would mean in the bed, or maybe even in the crib, but in the bed in Hebrew. I don't know, I guess we could say borscht in bed, like breakfast in bed, borscht for breakfast, I don't know. But whatever the case, of course, something that needs to be pointed out is while the O ultimately descends from the Phoenician ayin, clearly it was intended here to represent a vocalization that would be better represented by the wa. And I guess this is one way to write borщ in Hebrew, although today modern Israeli Hebrew spells it with a tet at the end, and it does that under the influence of Yiddish, much like how we render it in English, which, because our English word was also borrowed from the Yiddish borscht. But it is my understanding that in Ukrainian, what is called by some the shta, that letter that's the sha with a little stick at the end, a little tail at the end, it's pronounced in Ukrainian sha, and then, the normal sha is pronounced sa in Ukrainian, if I'm not mistaken. So the word in Ukrainian is borщ, not borscht, right? So there would be no need for a tet if we were just transliterating the Ukrainian term, or the Ukrainian pronunciation of it. But with that wa in there, it looks just too different for me. Now they're too far apart, so I'm going to put the ayin back in. And, while we're making changes, let's vertically flip or vertically mirror that first letter so it looks even more like the Phoenician bet. And that's it. Like I said, this was not intended as a serious video. I do this just for fun. I wanted to discuss a Slavic word and its proximity, at least when it's written in the Cyrillic script, to the so-called Paleo-Hebrew or Phoenician script, I guess we could call this Paleo-Hebrew borscht. Or we could call it Paleo-Yiddish, maybe Paleo-Slavic, or even Paleo-Knaanic. And I'll share a link to the Wikipedia entry on the Knaanic language in the video description, which was sort of like a Judeo-Slavic. But with that, I'll close this video here. I hope you found the topic as amusing as I did. Feel free to share your thoughts, whether positive or negative, and God bless.